welcome to Good Grief, the podcast dedicated to demystifying and destigmatizing grief, compassion, and humor. I'm Nikki. I'm an end-of-life doula and a grief coach in Columbus, Ohio. And today I'm so excited to have a guest on my show who reached out to me, who wanted to share her story. And oh my goodness, guys, just have a seat, buckle in, and get comfy because this is quite a ride. I am so happy I had Angie on my show. She is an author. She is a beautiful human being. She is a survivor of so much grief and so many losses. And I'm just so excited to have her share her story. And the things that came from all of her losses, the stories that have come from her that are now in her work as an author, I am just absolutely blown away. I'm not going to share much more because I want her to share her words. I don't want me to filter this view or anything. You just have to listen to her tell her story. It sounds weird to say I'm so excited for you to hear all these stories of loss, but I genuinely am. I'm happy to make these connections for people. I love the show. You guys, I've been at this for years now, and you know me. You know I'm only doing this because I want to help people share their own stories. And I want other people out there to feel less alone in their grief in case they have been through something similar. And my gosh, if you've been through everything that this woman has been through, I'm sorry. And, I hope the two of you because she's open to people connecting with her. So please reach out. Anyway, I'm getting in the weeds here. Before we dive into today's episode, don't forget you can check me out over at patreon.com/Nikki the Death Doula. If you can support me there for as little as $1 a month, and I will share with you. You get access to the podcast a week early. You'll get grief affirmations, other bonus content, Q&As, all sorts of amazing things over there. And all of the money I receive from that goes to myself providing pro bono work within my community. So I give back where I can. I'm doing free support groups online for people now. I give talks everywhere. I have at least one client I work with often on pro bono, all because of my amazing patrons. So please come over there and check that out. And without further ado, I'm not going to talk anymore about me because this is all about my amazing conversation with Angie. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back this week. I'm so excited to have another great guest episode. I have with me today Angie Vancise. Angie is an author and no stranger to grief. She has had quite a journey, and I don't want to spoil anything because I like my guests to share their story. So, Angie, I want to take a moment here, introduce yourself, tell us where you are in the world, and a little bit about your journey.
Sure, sounds good. Well, I'm Angie Vancise, as you said. My writer name is AD, and I never know which one to go with. Um, I grew up in a very small town in Collingwood, Ontario, which is about an hour and a half northwest of Toronto in Canada. Farming family, pig farming, and I was Fern in Charlotte's Web. I couldn't go to the farm on Thursdays because that was the day they picked up the pigs and I would freak out. So I wasn't allowed.
Me neither. I would be the same way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I couldn't handle that part of it. But the rest of the farming was amazing, learning all about it and being in the fields, running with the wind in your hair. And oh my goodness, it was a wonderful way to grow up. Yeah.
I love
And
that.
yeah, we had a good family. There was 8 brothers who came over from Holland in the late 1800s.
Oh
And
my
they
gosh.
landed on that road where it was actually my grandparents that had the farm.
Okay.
And so our lineage came right from one of those lines. And yeah, we stayed there. And I wish they had have stayed in Holland though, because the winters in Canada are not fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not too much further south than you, and they're not fun down here either. So
No, you're in Ohio, right? You're
I'm in
in Ohio?
Ohio. Yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be the same
Yeah.
winters, same kind
Yeah.
of cold and
Very, yeah.
miserable. Yeah,
And very gray. So yeah.
very great.
My family came over 3 generations back, and they settled in Eastern Ohio. And my family's been there ever since. My parents moved from Eastern Ohio to Columbus when my dad went to college. So yeah, we were farm people too, from
Yeah.
Germany and Switzerland, I believe, and England.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Cool.
Nice.
in the weeds a little
Yeah,
bit. That's okay. Well, I'm
mom
so
was from.
happy you were so willing to share your story with us. So I was reading through what you submitted to me again, and it's a lot. So I'll let you pick where you want to start.
Okay.
What
Well,
of
I'll
your like,
start from the first. The
yeah, yeah.
first. So in 2012, well, actually 2011, my brother was rushed to the hospital with a blood pressure of 266 over 144.
Oh my God.
Massive. And so I met him at the hospital and he was so scared. He didn't know what was going on. And after about 3 or 4 hours, they were able to bring it down, but it still was high. It was like 140 over 110 or something. And it stayed there for that year. And in that year, he'd had multiple things happening. He was very anxious. He had some visual disturbances. He had pressure in the back of his head, and he kept just getting worse and worse. And we'd take him to doctors and hospitals and tests, and no one could find anything. And I just kept saying to him, Dan, you're just high strung. You're upset. You need to calm down. You're worrying too much, and you're causing your body to get into a frenzy.
Mhm.
And the doctors agreed. Like they all kept saying, yeah, 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 that's what it is. So on October 21st, well, 20th, I had him to the Emerge in a town 45 minutes from here. It's a bigger hospital. Because I thought, you know what? Let's just take him there and see if they can figure out something. Because he'd, uh, 2 weeks before, had collapsed at our stepsister's wedding.
Oh my
And
God.
she's a nurse. So she sent him to her department and said, do this test, do that test, do this test, do that test. Because all of us were getting really frustrated with him at that point because we were like, Dan, stop, like enough. Um, they couldn't find anything. He had a CT scan, there was nothing, and his blood didn't show any blockages, nothing. So then on the way home from that, journey to the hospital, he went really stiff and his whole face went white. And I was driving and could see him in the rearview mirror. And I'm like, Dan, Dan. And he's like, something's happening. And I think I'm having a stroke. And I'm like, oh my God. Well, then he snapped out of it. And when we got to my mom's, because he was staying with my mom
Yeah.
at this point, he was very unsteady on his feet. So we took him in and I said, my God, should we be taking him back to Emerge? And he's like, no, they don't do anything anyway. And I just want to rest. So, and the funny thing is that a few days before that, he lived in Toronto with his partner, Patrick, and
Mhm.
I had picked him up because he didn't want to drive. And when we were leaving, he started to cry. And I said, Dan, what's wrong? And he said, my dogs, I don't think I'm ever going to see them again. And I said, Dan, that's ridiculous. What are you talking about? So I left him that night and I didn't leave until 10 or 10:30 because something in me didn't want to go. But I had my daughter who was 15 at the time and had to get home to my husband at the time. And I couldn't stay there forever. But I had this urge to run over and give him the biggest hug. And I didn't because we weren't a huggy kind of family. I've always been very affectionate, but my brother, my mom, and my dad were all Virgos and they just weren't.
Mhm.
And so I was like, okay. And I also didn't because I didn't want to scare him. If I did that, he'd be like, you think I'm dying, don't you? You think I'm dying. That's why you came to give me a hug. That's one regret I have because the next morning my mom called me and she said, we can't wake your brother up.
Oh
And I
God.
said, what are you talking about? What is going on? She said, I don't know. She said, he's breathing. But he got up at 6 a.m. He took his meds, but he was bouncing into the doors in the hall. I had to guide him back to bed, but we can't get him up. We're shaking him and he won't wake up. I said, okay, well, call the ambulance and I'll meet you at the hospital. And that morning, I had to take my dad to an appointment in the same town, the 40-minute away town, because he was having tons of health issues, which I believe were from some medications he was taking. And so I'm like thinking, how do I tell my dad? Because the whole time my dad was like, there's something wrong. There's something more wrong going on with Dan. And my mom and dad weren't together.
Right.
So anyway, I went to that appointment and I'm thinking, why aren't they rushing Dan out of this small Collingwood town hospital to the bigger city, Barrie? Like he needs surgery, he needs something, like something's
Yeah.
happened. And he's still not waking up. So we get back to the hospital and of course he's all hooked up to machines and everything. And I'm starting to think something's more serious
Yeah.
than what I was thinking. I feel like he's not going to wake up. So the doctor finally comes. It seemed like hours later, and he tells us that he's basically brain dead and that he's never going to wake up. And I totally collapsed. This was my life. He was my older brother. He and I were like twins. We were together all the time. We loved each other so much. We supported each other. He was the reason I would do anything, right? He pushed me into everything. I didn't know who I was going to be without him. So I collapsed. My cousin, who is 2 years younger than myself, he helped me. The nurse guided me out. I went to this room and I couldn't even stand. I was always the strong one in the family, and I just felt like I couldn't do it this time.
Yeah.
And so then, they come in and they ask you about organ donation. So I knew Dan wouldn't have wanted to do that only because he hated surgeries and he hated all of that stuff. But I thought we have to make sense of this. Like if somebody else's family will be saved this,
Right.
then we need this decision. So he was being shipped to that same town, Barrie, that night, and they were going to do the organ donation. So I get this call at 11 p.m. from a doctor, the emerge doctor, and he said, "We can't do this organ donation." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because your brother has brain activity. He's not brain dead. Who told you he was brain
Oh
dead?"
my God.
Yeah, right. So I said, "What? What does that mean? Is he coming back?" And he said, "Well, I don't know yet, but we can't do this surgery because he has brain activity.
Yeah.
And the only way we can do it is if his heart is gone or his brain is gone, and he has to be clinically dead, and he's not." So now I'm got this renewed sense of hope that, yay, he's going to come back to us, right?
Yeah.
And that would be, he was a jokester. He was like this guy that would drive you mentally crazy in one moment, and then you'd love him in the next. So the next morning we get up and the doctor said, "Well, the neurologist is coming in the morning, so be here and he'll do his examinations and then we'll know more." I said, "Okay." Well, the neurologist didn't get there till 7 p.m. So we're there the entire time wondering what is going on. All of his friends from the city have come. He was such a well-known, well-liked man. The poor people in that ICU unit,
Oh my
because there was
God.
so many of us. I think they probably still are like, "Oh my God." Anyway, so the neurologist comes in, he tells us all this googly gop. I don't understand a word he's saying because he's just like, "Well, we pushed on his sternum and his left arm came up, so he reacted to that, but he didn't react to this eye test. He didn't react to this. He didn't react to that." He's not really telling us anything. We're more confused now than we were. And I leaned over to my mom and said, "Mom, that's Dad's neurologist." And she looks at me and she goes, "Well, that explains a lot." Because that was a whole other
Oh,
story with my dad, which I'll get into.
oh,
Anyway, so his partner at the time was saying, "Well, I think we should just let him go. We should just let him go. He wouldn't want to live like this, da 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 da."
right.
And I was like, "Patrick, I get what you're saying, but you know what? You're going to have another partner. I'm never going to have another brother. My mom is never going to have another son. This cannot be decided lightly. What is the harm in waiting a day to see if Dan deteriorates more or he wakes up? What if we turn everything off and he wanted to come back? Like I This is not an easy decision." So the next day, we decide that we're going to let him do it. Well, he doesn't respond to all the same things that he did the day before. So he is getting worse. So we
Okay.
all make the decision that the fourth day, we're going to let him go. And the organ donation issue comes back up. So of course they say, "Well, he," we said, "Okay, yes, we'll do it." I said, "Well, we'll let Dan decide again," because you have 2 hour window.
Yeah.
So by the time you turn off the machines to the time that he leaves is 2 hours. After 2 hours, nothing is okay
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
So there's only so many people that can go down into that awful, horrid, cold space. Um, so they only wanted two people. I said, "That can't happen. We need more than two." So we ended up both, one of my other stepsister worked there too. So she was able to pull some strings and we got 10 people to go in. My
Good.
mom didn't want in there. She just wanted to see him without the tubes one last time. So that was heart-wrenching to see her
Oh
come in
God.
and give him a kiss and say goodbye. So then we're all waiting there, and Dan would get this awful shade of purple, and then he'd take this big, deep breath. So, long story short, the 2 hours came and went, and he was still alive.
Oh wow.
So they had to wheel him back up, and there was half the people upstairs and half of us, well, 10 of us downstairs. And Dan was this guy who wanted to always gather people. So he gathered people everywhere he went. And he never wanted it, he never liked it if you were in that room and this person was in that room. He wanted everyone together.
Hmm.
So the minute he got back in his room when everyone was together, that's when he went. So he
Wow.
made the decision, right? He didn't want to do the organ
He wanted to go
donation.
on his terms.
100%. And he did. And at the same time, so his very first partner, very first real gay relationship, I didn't know he was gay growing up. I had no idea, which seems really funny, doesn't it? But he was with so many women and he just was,
Yeah,
I didn't see it.
right.
And so when I found out, I thought it was pretty cool. And I told him
Mm-hmm.
I support him 100%, of course. And anyway, this guy he hung out with for a while, Brad, lovely man. I never saw my brother so grounded as he was with him. And the first book, Crive and Osprey, is about their story and then about the hospital. So it's two point of views.
Gotcha.
Well, this man had had a dream. Uh, I think it was the day we made the decision. And came up to him at this fence. And he, it was like he was behind security, airport security or something. And he said to Brad, I was coming back, but then when I saw what I have to do here, I decided that I had to stay. And it kind of made sense with him responding that first day and fighting and then just giving up the next day, right?
Hmm.
At the same time, my daughter tells me she had a dream. She was always very intuitive. And Dan was on an airplane. And I said, what? Because Brad said it looked like airport security. And
Oh,
they talked. And I was like, what did you say? She said, yeah, he was on an airplane and he was going to Costa Rica. And I said, well, that would be Dan because that was our favorite place. And in Costa Rica, there is an old plane where we go that's been turned into a bar. It's an old fighter jet.
oh,
And
cool.
that's where he was. He was partying on this fighter jet with these other people who weren't in this realm anymore.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is crazy. And the day after, I know you had some signs, some people on talking about signs. Well, the day after, I was in a really dark place. Like I didn't want to
Sure.
be here anymore. I didn't want to, I just didn't want to go on without my brother. I just
Sure.
didn't. And so that year, did you ever watch American Idol?
A little bit. Not
Okay,
not
well, we
all of
watched.
them, but I have seen it at least.
Yeah. Well, we didn't watch it all the time, but this particular year, Dan and I would watch it because he'd be at my place on Wednesdays because he worked in Collingwood but lived in the city in Toronto. And we'd talk about who we liked. Well, that year, Philip Phillips was on there. And I really liked watching him. He was so passionate and just so into his music. And Dan wasn't fond. He said, every song sounds the same, da da da. Well, I'm in my kitchen and I always turn on music. I always have the music on, and it's not my own. It's usually a cable network or something that I put
Yeah.
on. Music, that time Apple Music wasn't there. But anyway, I'm walking around the kitchen, no one's up yet, and I hear these lyrics, and it's like someone turned the TV up, the volume up, and I was like, whoa, what? And I couldn't believe what I was hearing because it was like, come down this unfamiliar road, I'll make it your home, pay no mind to the demons. It was just like all these, I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it sounded like a message. So then when went over and to see who it was Philip Phillips, and it was Home, his song Home. And then I looked out the window and there was the most magnificent, beautiful, big rainbow you've ever seen in your life. And I was like, wow, okay, I need to keep going.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
just, yeah,
oh my gosh.
crazy. And there's been so many since then. It's ridiculous. We'd need 5 hours to tell you all the signs that he sends.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow. Woo, a lot there. That was quite a journey and just the back and forth with, is he going to die and when and how and all of that. But one thing that stuck out to me was when you said your mom called you to tell you that they couldn't wake him up. And I will forever hear my mom's voice when she called me to tell me that my brother had died, because she was the one that called me to tell me they found him. And I can't ever unhear that. It's the pain I had to witness of my mother and my father losing their son. I will never get over that.
Well, and you see that leads into the next couple of
Yeah. Yeah.
things that, because as you, the pain of seeing my parents, I mean, I believe they both basically died the day he did,
Yeah.
really.
Hmm.
And my dad had been having these health issues for a while. He'd been diagnosed with Parkinson's. And I've been doing, since the early 90s, I lost my aunt. That was bad too. I had three deaths within a year back
Oh,
then. It was just hell. Um, but I'd lost her to cancer. And I had gone on this natural trend after that, to figure out, okay, what is going on? This is crazy. So I knew about some pharmaceuticals that would do damage, and statins are one of them. And I kept saying to Dad, since you've been on that statin, you've gone downhill. Yeah, your cholesterol's higher, but maybe your body needs it to be that high, right?
hmm.
You have had heart attacks. You've had a heart attack since you've been on the statins. So clearly it's not helping,
Yeah.
but it's eating away at your muscles. You were told that, and it is. It's
Yeah.
really taking you down quickly. But he was so, I can't go off it, da 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 da. So we were trying all these alternative things and trying to help him. So he just kept getting worse. And then we finally had a neurologist that said, "Oh, you don't have Parkinson's." And I said, "See, I'm telling you that." And she said, "You have Parkinsonism, which is the exact same and nothing changes." Well,
Okay.
you just saw his face, he gave up in that moment. That was it. It was over. So on May 14th, 2014, Collingwood is an old ship builders town. So we have piers everywhere. Well, in May, as you know, the water would still be very, very frigid from the winter.
Hmm.
My dad, he wanted to go to Switzerland to have us, he wanted to pay for this family vacation and then have him basically euthanized while he's there. And I was doing everything I could to try and save him and help him. So I said, Dad, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I wish I could. I wish I was strong enough, but I'm just not. I mean, Dan's gone, it's too
Yeah.
hard. And so he ended up taking his own life by jumping off the pier in 2014. And I don't have an issue. He was such in such pain.
Right.
I don't blame him one bit.
Right.
But that was pretty tough.
Sure.
And then in the meantime, my mom's health had started to deteriorate. And keep in mind, they're only in their 70s at this point, right? Like they're not that old.
Hmm.
And my mom was always very active, but I know my brother's death took a toll. Her
Hmm.
firstborn,
Oh
all
yeah.
of it,
Oh yeah.
as you can see, like with your parents, right?
Yep.
And being a parent myself, I get it. I totally get it. It's not the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
So she collapsed on her floor one day, and we took her to the hospital. She came back. So it was determined that she only had 22% of her heart function left. She'd had this massive heart attack at some point. She didn't even know when, but I know when. I mean, literally losing her son broke her heart, like literally. So for that next year, she just declined, declined, declined cognitively, and I had to look after her. And the part I didn't tell you was in the meantime, my dad's wife was contesting his will. So I was trying to fight all of that
Oh my
on
God.
my mom. So then in 2015, she succumbed and died. And here's the funny thing about that. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh my God, I left and I went for coffee and they died when I was gone and I should never have left for coffee." They wanted to go when you weren't there. They waited until
Yep.
you left.
Hmm.
Well, the day before I she died, I had a phone call meeting with the lawyer at 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. the next morning. And I told her, even though she wasn't coherent anymore and she couldn't talk, I just know that subconscious is there. And I said to her, "Mom, I will be back tomorrow," because I was spending every day, all day with her. I kept her in her home. I hired PSWs to come in. I didn't want her to go into a home. And I said, "I will be back. I have an appointment with the lawyer at 10. I'll be back. I'll be here as soon as I can." The lawyer calls. I'm on the phone literally 5 seconds, and my phone's ringing, and it's my mom's boyfriend. And I'm like, why is he calling me now? He knows. He knows that I have this meeting at 10. I can't answer the phone. Well, then all of a sudden it hangs up. He phones my husband's phone. And I'm like, oh God, something's wrong. Well, then, of course, he's calling to say my mom had passed away. She passed away at 10 a.m.
Wow. Oh my
Yeah. She just knew I couldn't go through anymore, you know?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I brought that up several times on this show about how people tend to wait until they're alone to die. Because I deal with this all the time too with my work as a death doula. I'll have people who could be in active dying for like a day or 2 or 3 weeks. Sometimes it's different. And I'll have
Yep.
those kids that are like, I sat with mom 24/7, and the minute I went to the bathroom or I went to take a shower, and it's like, please don't take that personally. Like that's you might be there one day too. It's just anyway, we talk all
Yeah.
day about that. Uh,
Yeah. No, it's true. It's
yeah.
true. And so I didn't feel bad about that.
Yeah. I feel like there's something in it. There's a couple theories I have, and one of them just being that there's something in us that we don't want other people to have to bear that, and
Yeah.
especially with your mom, knowing everything else you've been through. But also just like I know I tend to relax a little more when I'm alone in a room. We all do. Like people walk out, you
Well,
just kind of have that bit of
it's like,
relax.
okay, I can go.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing I didn't tell you is that 2 months to the day after my mom, uh, her boyfriend was found on the floor of her place, collapsed. He'd broken his neck, took him to the hospital, and he was full of cancer. That's why his neck broke. And so he died. And I was with him when he died, but it was beautiful. It was actually beautiful. His face just went so peaceful,
Yeah.
and he asked me 3 questions. Who has the key to the house? Where's the dog going to go? And I can't remember the third question. I answered those questions and he checked out. It was unbelievable.
So I want to ask the big question about living with this amount of grief. But before we do, you had one more grand finale to all this that you told me
I
about
did. I did. I totally did.
because
So all
you
of that.
hadn't dealt with enough. So what happened next?
So yeah. So after all of that, I finally think I'm in reprieve. I can heal now because one went into the other, and I just had to deal with other things and deal with other
Yeah.
things. So now that all of it's gone, so I go to bed. It's a September day, and I've always hated thunderstorms. But I'm laying in bed, and all of a sudden I hear this thunderstorm, and it's very close. And out of nowhere comes the biggest crack sound I've ever heard in my life. The house lifts off of its foundation, I swear to God, and this big fireball goes out my window. And I'm like, Jesus, what the heck was that? Oh my God. And it's 3 a.m.
Yeah.
So I get up, and my daughter is coming out of her bedroom and saying, Mom, what the hell? I said, I don't know. I think we just got hit with lightning.
Hmm.
So I'm wandering around. Well, then my husband at the time slept in the basement because he snored so badly. I couldn't sleep. So he comes up with his flashlight and he's looking around because there's no power.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, out of the grate, the intake grates in your room or whatever,
Yeah.
smoke's coming out of the grate. And I'm going, oh my God. And he said, yeah, there's a weird smell in the basement. So I'm calling 911. I have animals in the house, my daughter, my husband, and I'm like, oh my God, we've got to get out, but I've
Yeah.
got to get my
Yeah.
animals.
Yeah.
And so I'm on 911, and the woman's like, ma'am, you just need to get out of your house. And I said, I know, but my animals. Well, the fire department's going to be there right away. And it's pouring down rain. So I'm thinking, how can the house, it's going to be put out by the rain, right? Like it's clearly been hit, caught, whatever. So anyway, luckily, there was a drunk driver who had rolled his truck right out front on the highway that our house was on. And the department was right there. They heard the bang, they heard it hit, they knew it hit. So they were there in 30 seconds. That's what saved the house. So we
Wow.
think puddle out my bedroom, and there was a downspout there. And we
Hmm.
think that the lightning hit that puddle, went in, and it caused an electrical fire. So then I'm out of my house for 10 months. But I was like, don't worry, it's my grand finale. It's all over now.
It can't
It's
get
good.
any worse than this.
I mean, isn't fireworks that like, boom, okay, Let's celebrate.
Oh,
Like
Lord.
I was outside, I swear to God, on my back deck waving my white flag, going, okay, I'm strong enough. I'm strong enough. I don't need any more. Please stop
Right?
now.
Oh my God.
But
So,
in
yeah.
all of that, what it did is it made me aware
Hmm.
you need to go after your passion and your dreams, and you need to do it now. You don't
Yes.
need to wait.
Yes.
Don't don't wait. Do it now.
So,
And
and
so
so
I
you went with your passion now, and tell us a little bit about that because I want to promote your books too.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I it made me aware that I had kept a secret. My brother wasn't the only one that kept a secret. I did too. And my secret was that I always wanted to write a book. From the first time I held one in my hands. And right after my brother passed, I contacted a medium because I wanted to know that he was okay because he didn't want to die. He was just so afraid to die. And all I needed to know was, is he okay? Well, I got more out of that than I thought. So I was chatting with her and she said, you're only using 40% of your talents. And I'm a visual artist as well. I'll paint, but it's just a hobby. And I said, yeah, I know I've been painting a little bit more. She said, no, 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 that is the 40%. And it was my mom's mom that was there telling her this. And she was a teacher. And I never told her either. But she said, your grandmother's saying that you need to write the book. And my first instinct was to say, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never wanted to write a book because I had protected that secret for so long. But I had been thinking about it more and more after my brother passed because I was like, what am I waiting for? Why am I waiting? He's gone now. Like he lived life to the fullest, of course, everywhere he went. But
Yeah.
I hadn't. And so I decided that that was my time. So I took some courses out of U of T, the creative writing courses, and I got through all of that. And then I started to write my first book, Cry of an Osprey, which is about the one thing that killed me about my brother, not apart from the obvious, is that this man, this Brad, and he had such a beautiful relationship. And they ended it not because of lack of love. They ended it because of societal pressures. Brad was raised in a Mennonite family. He
Mhm.
had a lot, he had three children. He was going through a divorce. There was a lot of pressure. And so my brother loved him so much. Even though he had another partner, he loved him too. But this Brad was just his, you have that one all the
Yeah.
time. And he was so hurt because he didn't think Brad wanted him. And seeing Brad, he was by Dan's side the whole time this happened, and he was so sad and so hurt and just completely broken. So
Sure.
to see that and to have Dan not know that, that was the hard part. So I
Yeah.
wanted to write their story so that people could see what happens, that love is
Yeah.
love, that they had this beautiful love that most people would never find.
Yeah.
Um, and then on the flip side, I had to write my story to get it out. And everyone said, my God, wasn't that hard? I said, no, I lived that. The hard
Right.
parts were
Hard part's
writing the,
over.
yeah, it was the beautiful bits that the two of them shared that I didn't know about. And
Yeah.
then never having their happy ending. That was the sad part.
Yeah.
But that wasn't always the genre I wanted to write in. I love mystery thriller. So after that book was written, now Pandora's box is open. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going for it. But I didn't know what to write about. And so I remembered I called that same medium and she said, well, there's a sheriff in a small town. And my grandfather was a police chief for 30 years in Wasaga Beach, which is the longest freshwater beach in the world. I have to plug it, but
Okay.
it's a very small town. And
Yeah.
I knew immediately what it was. I had found this photo in his family photos when I was 9. And it was of this woman standing next to this little box. And I was like, Papa, what's this? And he's like, I don't want to talk about it. And he ran out of the room. And I was, okay, that's strange. Well, then when he'd passed, I was at the kitchen table with my Nana, the one that told this medium about my book.
Hmm.
And I came across the photo again and I said, Nana, what's with this? And she said, well, it was his first case and he never wanted to talk about it. And I
Oh,
said, why the photo if you didn't want to talk about it? She goes, I have no idea. And she gave me a gory detail of what had happened. It involved a knitting needle in the ear. That's all I'll say. But I don't know if that actually happened
right.
because Papa man that would give you some awful, gruesome story so that you wouldn't ask any more questions.
Yeah.
And I ran with that. And for some reason, it took me down these paths of really horrific survivor stories of satanic rituals and child trafficking. And I knew then that that was my passion.
Yeah.
And I had to write about it. And I'll tell you a vision I had that will give you goosebumps. You remember I said the dream that my
Yeah.
brother's ex-partner had,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that Dan, when he found out what he had to do, he had to stay. Well, I was in a meditation, a guided meditation with a friend of mine, and I landed in the middle of this forest. And I was looking around and I was like, oh, this is cool. What am I doing here? And all of a sudden, my brother appeared at the edge of the tree line of the forest. And he stood there and he said, you have to do your work. You have to write. Because I went through a big stint after that book, Hidden in the Shadows, was written. I couldn't
Yeah.
write anymore. So stop. He said, you have to do this. This is your work. This is your work. And then all of a sudden he steps aside, and behind him, I kid you not, there's thousands of children. Thousands. Like all I can see is children. And he said, I'm doing my work here. You have to do your work there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's
So
yeah.
Hidden in the Shadows was the first of a series of four. And I'm exposing and I'm giving a voice to all of those children that I keep seeing in behind my brother.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read these now. I'll have
Well,
links in the description for everybody listening. Please go check these out because I am so excited now. I want to read all of these.
thank you.
Yeah.
Well, the other ones are being written now, but Hidden in the
Yeah.
Shadows, it's a tough read. But
Okay.
every testimonial, the Charlie Baker chapters
Hmm.
are based on real testimonials. I did not make that up.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
there's only seven of those chapters, and Evie is the main character. She finds the photo the same way and
Hmm.
goes on a journey to figure out what was going on. So it just won the American Fiction Award for Horror General, and I was
Oh,
like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I had to keep looking.
yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding? Which gave me hope in the sense that this has been a topic that has been hushed and hidden, and no one wants to pick it up and
Mm-mm.
expose it. So
Yeah.
the fact that one tells me that maybe we're ready to hear these stories, right?
Yep.
And
I
we're
agree.
ready to because if we don't know, we can't fix it.
I agree. Oh my gosh. Wow.
So all of my grief went into all of that.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
This was a lot. That was a lot.
Yeah.
You've been through
It's a lot
everything.
in that short amount of time. So forgive me if I
Yeah.
spoke fast.
Yeah,
But
no, there was a lot to I knew that when I set this up, I was like, well, she's got a lot to unpack. This will be a longer episode, and that's okay. Because it's important for people because I've spoken to other people who've had a ton of subsequent losses back to back to back, and they're okay. Yes, it's awful. Yes, nobody would wish that on anybody, but they've survived.
yes,
And just for anybody who's in that in the now, just to know that you will come through on the other side. It's gonna suck right now, but you'll come.
right.
So,
It's waves, right? It always comes in these
oh yeah.
waves, and the waves just get further apart as you go. And the one thing that I can tell people is I used to think grief was this horrible monster that followed me everywhere.
Mhm.
But I now realize that it's disguised as love. It's
Yeah.
love. You don't have grief without love.
Exactly. If you didn't love somebody, you wouldn't grieve them.
Yeah. And that is the part of them that we get to keep here, right? That, they take a little bit of us. Each one of those deaths took a piece of me for sure. And
Oh
I had
yeah.
to reinvent myself. I was no longer Dan's little sister. I was no longer mom and dad's daughter. I'm an orphan, literally, with no brother, no parents.
Hmm.
But that had to, now I am Angie the author. That is what propelled me to
Hmm.
be what I needed to be my entire life that I hid.
Yes. Yes.
So
I'm
for
gonna
me,
round
I'm
of applause.
thankful. Yes.
That's just it.
So
We
I
become new
find that.
people after loss, and trying to discover who this new us is half the battle. I do this all the time with my clients.
Right?
Let's find who we are now and let's embrace them. So, thank you.
Exactly. And that love, that
Yeah.
grief love,
Yeah.
and yeah, some days I'm not gonna lie, it's hard. Some
Oh,
days it's tough, but I just go with that. Okay, this is one of those days. Okay, I observe it, I feel it, and then I let it go. And then the
yes.
next day is back, or they'll send me a sign, right? They'll send me something. And like I said, we could be here 5 hours if I told you all of that. Same with the book, all the signs that came in with the book.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh my gosh.
There's that question, I know we have to wrap it up, but that one question about why would he keep the photo if he didn't want to talk about it was a
Yeah.
huge one I wanted to answer for the readers, right? And I was like, I
Yeah.
have no idea. So I just wrote, and in a confession letter of his partner, fictitious partner, that I was writing
Hmm.
from this fictitious partner. It came out in that letter. And I kid you not, I was typing and all of a sudden I typed it and I went, "What? Oh my God." And I stood right up. I said, "That's why he kept this photo." Shut up.
Yeah.
Kind of how the book happened all the way
Yeah.
through, right? I trusted and surrendered and let it happen. And
And
I
then you
think,
were able to heal in a way, or at least have that question answered so that, oh, yes,
right.
love
And
that.
I don't know still what the story of that photo truly is,
Right.
but it doesn't matter. It took me down whatever the reason was, and maybe it is part of what I went into because I
Yeah.
did go to a grave site, and my grandfather's brother has a Masonic symbol
Hmm.
on gravesite. And not all Masons are terrible, bad people, but
Right.
it seems that a lot of these survivors have described Masons.
Hmm.
And so I think there are a few that aren't so good, right? And just like the knife was created to cut and be a tool to help eat, and people kill with it, right? There's it happens in every aspect of life, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Oh,
But so I don't know. I don't know what the story is. It died with
well,
him,
it
but
it took you where you needed to be right now. So that's
exactly.
matters.
That's
So,
all that matters. That's all
so.
that matters.
All right. So as we are getting close to the end of this episode, and as you probably know, I have to pull my card from the death deck, and we will both
Yes.
answer that. So I'm gonna pull one right out the middle. This is a juicy one. If you were to die tomorrow, how many unresolved grudges would you leave behind?
Wow.
I know what
Well,
I'm hoping you'll say.
I am happy to say that I don't have any grudges. I tend to, yeah,
Yeah.
I really do. I think because of all the loss that I've suffered and knowing it can be just like that.
Yeah.
I mean, this might be my last day here.
Yeah.
I tend to take in everything and speak from my heart everywhere I go. If I see someone that has a beautiful coat, I'll tell them. If their hair looks great, I'll tell them.
Hmm.
If there's a bird that's popping around on my little backyard, I'll watch it, So any loose ends or any ickiness that's been in my world, I've repaired.
I
The
love
only one would be my stepmother, but I don't have the stuff that she pulled after my father passed. I've let her go,
Yeah.
so I don't have any grudges there.
Yeah.
I've forgiven her.
Yeah.
So that would have been the only one, but no, I don't. I
Yeah.
think if I was tomorrow, I've lived my dream. I'm an author, and that was the main thing. I would be sad that I didn't get more books out,
Yeah.
but I would be like, I would trust and surrender that that was just the way it was meant to be.
Well, you answered that exactly how I hoped you would, because that's what I'm always telling people. Don't have grudges because you can't. Why? Why? Life is too damn short for that. So I
What? It
think,
only hurts you. It only hurts
right.
you.
I have a half of grudge that
Oh,
I still have with me. It's my own personal thing I need to work through, and I've been working through it for years. I'll get there one day, but it's not a full grudge.
good.
I was a smidge of one, but overall, I'm willing and able to let stuff go. So, but yeah,
Good. And when I
awesome.
heard that your brother had passed too, it was kind of like, well, no wonder she's having me on her show because the
Mhm.
synchronicity of that is
Yeah,
is kind
yeah,
of, yeah.
and Yeah, anytime I hear somebody who loses a sibling, it touches me real close because I know what that's like to lose a sibling. Everybody's story is different, right? Your relationship with your brother is very different than mine.
Right, of course.
We had very different experiences, but still, losing a sibling is a very interesting grief to
It is.
we could talk all day about that. But Angie, this has been amazing. Please tell my listeners where they can find you and or your books. I will put this in the description too, but I'll let you take a moment to tell us all those things.
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you for putting that there. I really, and I want to say thank you for having me. I love telling my story because I'm hoping that it will help
Mhm.
somebody out there that is maybe grieving, or maybe they're going to the hospital today and there's somebody laying there on the vent and it's the
Yes.
worst day ever. It really is. But you do get past it.
Mhm.
Um, so I have a website. It's advansizeauthor.com.
Mhm.
They can also grab the books off of Amazon. They're on Amazon. I welcome anyone to email me. My email is my last name, VANCISEA @gmail.com. And I would love to hear their stories too, you know? So, yeah.
Awesome.
And just a word of caution for the Hidden in the Shadow book. Crive and Osprey is a completely different book. It's
Right.
it's very emotional. It's a feel-good book, but also a sad book.
Sure.
Um, semi-autobiography, I would say.
Mhm.
But Hidden in the Shadows is more of where I want to be in the author
Sure.
world. But it is tough.
Okay.
But as I say, if it's that tough to read, imagine going through it.
Right.
So this is what you need to keep in mind. And it's not to glorify it. It's not, and there could be trigger warnings. So please, I do have a warning in the beginning of the book,
Okay.
but just read with caution because it is hard to hear.
Yeah.
But it's also a good mystery.
Yeah.
It's very twisty, very twisty.
I love horror thrillers. Like I'm all about that. And yeah, all any of
Yes.
those. So I'm in. But all right. Thank you, Angie. This has been amazing. I'm so happy you were here to share your story.
And it's been lovely meeting you. Thank you so much, Nikki. I'm honored to be on your show.
Thank you. All right, another huge thank you and shout out to Angie Vancise for sharing her story with me, with you, and her gifts as an author with the world. So please go check her out. The links for everything she said should be in the description down below. I also put links for all my authors. I have links on my website. If you go to nikkithedeathdoula.com/podcast, you can find links to books that my guests may have authored, or I try to put their websites and things on there too. I don't always get to all of them. I do my best, so that is a good place to start there, but everything should be down in the description. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to help me out, you can leave me a rating and a review. That is the best way to help a podcast. The more 5-star reviews we have, the more ratings and like worded, like write a couple sentences too, like Nikki's amazing and I just wish I could talk to her and listen to her every single day of my whole life. That helps boost me up in the algorithm so more people can find my podcast. And I'm not making a dime over here. I'm just here because I want other people to feel less alone in their grief. So, and if you feel like you would like to share your story of grief with the world, please reach out to me. You can do that through my website. Let me know, see what we can do. You can also find me over on Substack. I've got some great content out there I'm putting in the world. And yeah, I'm always happy to hear from my listeners. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me and tell me, that you like the show. But again, a rating's the best thing. Tell a friend about the show, or go over to my Patreon. Patreon.com/NikkiTheDeathDoula is another great way you can help me. So that is all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful and amazing week. And remember, as always, your grief is yours. Your feelings are valid. Grief doesn't always have to suck. Good Grief with Nikki the Death Doula is produced by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC in Columbus, Ohio. Nikki the Death Doula LLC is for consulting, education, emotional support, and guidance, and is no way considered a funeral establishment or licensed mental health establishment. Scripts, editing, sound design, literally everything with this podcast is done solely by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC, with the exception of the music. The music is Cheery Monday by Kevin MacLeod. Licensing information can be found at filmmusic.io.